The metallic clink of a key in the lock sliced through the silence of the penthouse. A sound so sharp it felt like a blade against Mark's spine. He stood frozen in the darkened foyer, his pulse hammering in his ears, the weight of his briefcase pulling at his arm like an anchor. It was 9:47 p.m., far too early for him to be home from the conference in Chicago. He hadn't told Claire he'd caught an earlier flight. He'd wanted to surprise her. Now the muffled laughter spilling from their bedroom. Her laughter, intertwined with a deeper, unfamiliar voice, twisted his gut into knots. Mark's breath hitched, his mind scrambling to deny what his ears already knew. He set the briefcase down. The soft thud swallowed by the plush carpet. The city skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting cold, silver light across the marble floor. He moved toward the bedroom, each step deliberate, as if the air itself resisted him. His heart screamed for him to turn back, to pretend he hadn't heard, but his feet carried him forward, drawn to the truth like a moth to a flame. Claire's voice grew clearer, a playful lilt he hadn't heard in months. "You're terrible," she teased, the words dripping with intimacy. A man's low chuckle followed, rich and confident, the kind of sound that belonged to someone who owned every room he entered. Mark's hand hovered over the bedroom door, slightly ajar, a sliver of warm light spilling into the hall. His fingers trembled. He could still walk away. He could pretend this was a dream, a misunderstanding. But the ache in his chest demanded answers. He pushed the door open, just enough to see. Claire sat on the edge of their bed, her silk robe slipping off one shoulder, her auburn hair tumbling in waves. Across from her, lounging in Mark's armchair like he belonged there, was a man in a tailored suit, tie loosened, a glass of Mark's favorite bourbon in his hand. Richard Grayson, Claire's CEO. The man who'd promoted her to senior VP 6 months ago. The man who'd been texting her late at night. "Just about work," she'd said. Mark's throat tightened, his vision tunneling. Claire's laughter stopped abruptly as her eyes met his. Her face drained of color, the glass of wine in her hand trembling. "Mark," she whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice. Richard turned, his expression shifting from smug ease to something harder, unreadable. For a moment, the room was a vacuum. No sound, no air, just the weight of betrayal pressing against Mark's ribs. What is this?" Mark's voice was barely audible, a raw scrape of sound. He wanted her to lie, to weave some plausible excuse, but her silence was louder than any confession. Her eyes, wide with guilt, darted to Richard, then back to Mark, pleading for something she couldn't name. "Mark, I didn't," she started, but her words faltered. Richard stood, setting the bourbon down with deliberate care, as if defusing a bomb. "Let's all stay calm," he said, his tone infuriatingly measured. "This isn't what it looks like." Mark's laugh was bitter, a sound he didn't recognize. "Not what it looks like. You're in my house, in my chair, drinking my bourbon. With my wife." His voice cracked on the last word, and he hated himself for it. He wanted to be furious, to scream, to break something, but all he felt was a hollow ache, like the ground had vanished beneath him. Claire stood, clutching her robe closed, her movements jerky. "Mark, please let me explain." Her voice was desperate, but there was no conviction in it. She reached for him, and he flinched, stepping back. The space between them felt like a chasm. "Explain," he spat. "Explain how you've been lying to me for months? The late nights, the meetings. The way you stopped touching me?" His voice rose, each word a shard of glass. He thought of the small moments he'd dismissed. The way her phone was always face down, the perfume she started wearing, the way she'd pull away when he tried to hold her. Red flags he'd painted over with trust. Richard stepped forward, hands raised like a peacemaker. "Mark, you're upset. I get it. But this was just a misunderstanding. Claire and I were discussing a project." "In my bedroom?" Mark's voice was a low growl now, his fists clenching. He wanted to believe it, wanted to cling to any thread of denial, but the truth was a blade, cutting deeper with every second. Claire's silence was deafening, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Mark, I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. It wasn't supposed to happen at all." Her admission hit like a punch, stealing his breath. He staggered back, the room tilting. The woman he'd loved for 10 years, the woman he'd built a life with, had shattered it in a single night. Why? The word tore from him, raw and pleading. He hated how small it made him feel, how it laid bare his heart. Why, Claire? Was I not enough? Was our life not enough? She shook her head, tears spilling now. It's not about you. I don't know. I got lost. Richard was there and she stopped, choking on her words. Richard's jaw tightened, but he said nothing, his silence a confession of its own. Mark's mind raced, replaying every moment of their marriage. The quiet mornings over coffee, the way she'd laugh at his terrible jokes, the plans they'd made for a future that now felt like a lie. He'd trusted her completely, blindly. And now, that trust was ash. He turned to Richard, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. Get out of my house. Richard nodded, grabbing his jacket. I'm sorry, Mark. Truly. But there was no remorse in his eyes, only calculation. He walked past, leaving a faint whiff of expensive cologne, and the door clicked shut behind him. Claire sank onto the bed, sobbing now, her hands covering her face. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said between gasps. I love you, Mark. I still do. Her words were a knife, twisting deeper. He wanted to hold her, to scream at her, to beg her to take it all back. But he couldn't. Not now. Not ever. Love, he said, his voice cold. You don't destroy someone you love. He turned, walking back to the foyer, his footsteps echoing in the empty space. The city lights blurred through the windows, indifferent to his pain. He picked up his briefcase, the weight grounding him for a moment. Then he stopped, his hand on the door. Mark, please, Claire called from the bedroom, her voice small and broken. Don't go. He didn't turn around. I'm not the one who left, he said, and the door closed behind him with a final, hollow thud. In the elevator, the mirrored walls reflected a man he barely recognized. Eyes hollow, jaw tight, a stranger undone by love. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a text from Claire. I'm so sorry. Please come back. He stared at it, his thumb hovering over the screen. Then with a slow, deliberate motion he powered it off. Outside, the city pulsed with life, oblivious to his unraveling. He stood on the sidewalk, the cold air biting his skin, and realized he had nowhere to go. The life he'd known was gone, replaced by a truth he couldn't unsee. But in that moment, a strange clarity settled over him. He would survive this. He would rebuild. And one day he would be whole again, without her.